Hey, what's up? Injury Report Analysis Show. I'm Drew Dinkmeyer here with Mike Gallagher. We've got 11 games on the slate and tons of NBA injuries to talk through. So we'll get right into it. Mike, how are you on this fine Wednesday afternoon or morning in your time zone?
It's morning now. I'm in Arizona. Doesn't do daylight savings, which I'm sad about that new law because I like California time. But doing great. Yeah, I got matchups done early, so I could be around for the day. Excited for probably a ton of props today. Yeah, crazy injury report. What we got? Let's see how many questionable tags we got. 17. So
Yeah.
not outrageous, but a lot of outs, a lot of rest. It's going to be like the schedule's crazy. Who you play for these bad tank teams is really important. Like I knew Wendell Carter Jr. was going to get listed today, and probably expecting him to talk. But yeah, the opponent matters a lot, especially for teams like Detroit and those guys. We'll talk about it
Yeah.
every day, pretty much.
Yeah, it's going to be the way of the world the next 2 weeks, I think, especially with these condensed schedules. It's
Yeah.
interesting that there hasn't been much of a reprieve as we get closer to the playoffs. The good news, of course, is the teams will have basically half a week once the regular season ends to get ready for the playoffs from a health and standpoint and whatnot. So let's get into the teams that are resting in big ways today. Let's start with the Warriors. No Draymond Green, no Klay Thompson, no Otto Porter Jr. There will be Jordan Poole, who took a fall yesterday, right? I saw a message in Slack that you were concerned that
he banged knees with Gate. Yeah, he banged knees with Gate. I thought there was a chance he might get listed, but yeah, he banged knees, said he was fine. And yeah, you know how it feels when you bang your knee, just feel a little bit of pain. You're usually good, but he should be good to go.
Ended up playing 40 minutes in that one and kind of salvaging a little bit of a disappointing game from Jordan Poole and certainly a disappointing game from the Warriors, only scoring 90 points last night in Orlando. They get the Heat tonight, so it's not a super exciting spot to attack, but we saw the Heat just blew a game against Philadelphia where they gave up over 110 points to a team without Harden and Embiid. And the Heat have plenty of people questionable in the injury report that we could talk about as well. But let's keep it with Golden State. How do you expect them to what kind of lineups are we looking at in the absence of Draymond, Klay, obviously Steph, and Otto Porter Jr. as well?
Yeah, and they don't have Quindary Weatherspoon yet. Curious to see if that changes. But yeah, I mean, we know and Gary Payton actually dinged himself up last night, went to the locker room. I think he's going to be an important piece today because they kind of use him to. It's also they didn't put Wiggins on there, which I guess is good news. So it could be a really big Wiggins night, who's also been dealing with illness and he's just been flat out bad lately. So he could be busy. So expect a lot of Poole, maybe not a lot of Wiggins. We'll see how they manage him. They've been keeping Looney's minutes have been way down lately. Kerr hasn't really been asked about that, but some of it's just game flow and some of it's just they want to play him 82 games for sure, and he's almost there. I think his season high was like 30 starts, so it's crazy he's played so much. But yeah, definitely a big Kuminga opportunity. Definitely could see Moses Moody. Moses Moody was listed on the injury report. We didn't get any information on it all day, and he was like I don't know if he would have checked out if Gary Payton didn't get dinged up because he didn't play in the first half. They had Damian Lee ahead of him, so you could rationalize that they were keeping him out to get him ready to play. I think that makes sense to me. So I think he could play a pretty good bit. We know Miami, when they're vulnerable, it's because of 3-point shooting. So guys like Poole, guys like Moody could definitely take advantage. But yeah, but the headline to me is big Kuminga season. I think he's going to be really, really, really busy with a lot of minutes here. And then everybody else is Moody could be okay. Poole as well could be really, really busy. This is worth a whole talk, but they keep running the Steph Curry offense without Stephen Curry. And it's just not working. But yeah, it's really fascinating. So I am heavily invested in Miami minus 5.5. So I'm pretty pumped about that. Please don't lay an egg, Miami.
Yeah, the closing line value came to get us last time as they blew it against Philadelphia. We'll see if they can right the ship tonight against Golden State. On Miami's side of the ball, Jimmy Butler is questionable. I believe Tyler Hero is questionable as well. There's just a ton of Miami guys questionable. So what are your thoughts on them? Because this would seem to be another spot potentially to play it more cautiously given the Warriors resting so many players.
Yeah, I think they were pretty pissed they lost this game. Jimmy Butler said he doesn't want to rest, but he wasn't really feeling great after the game. He said he's just going to deal with it, and he's feeling okay. And just, he's definitely going to get sat back-to-backs, I think. But I think he plays. Tyler Hero's injury is new. So I think it's going to probably be one of them that sit. not both. Caleb Martin also listed. I guess, kind of the same thing. Like if they both can't go, then Caleb would probably play. I think they're just kind of covering their bases with the Q tags, which we appreciate. We'd like to know any of the iterations that can happen. So, but yeah, they still have Lowry, they still have Van, they still have PJ Tucker. Tucker just said he doesn't want to sit. They've been running a lot of Marquise Morris at the 5 to keep Dwayne Dedmon fresh. Spolstra said it was a matchup thing. Before that, he said it was a thing he wanted to look at. So may see more of him. Just if bodies are missing. And and also it's worth mentioning too that Gabe Vincent's not out. So if those guys aren't, a combination of two of those guys are out, Max Strus season for sure. He could be really, really busy. So yeah, there's again a lot of ways can go down, but I expect Jimmy to play. Hero, I don't know, probably out just because it's new, and then Caleb probably in, given the way it's been kind of an old injury.
All right, other big injury spots. Atlanta on the second night of a back-to-back. They announced that in addition to John Collins, who's been out of late, Danilo Gallinari is going to be out as well. Bogdan Bogdanovic is questionable too. Mm-hmm. So no Gallinari, no John Collins. That leaves a gaping hole at the 4. And if they are without Bogdanovic as well, things get pretty tight on the wings. Who benefits here for Atlanta?
DeLon Wright, we saw him really step up. Even when Bogdan played, when they didn't have Gallinari and Collins, after the game, Nate McMillan said back to the game I'm talking about, he was like, yeah, we didn't want to bring Bogdan in the starting lineup. So could be pretty heavy DeLon Wright minutes. Would expect him to get a lot of the Cade Cunningham stuff. They really like him for on-ball defense. So definitely a guy I expect his minutes to be really, really high. Also worth noting, and I don't think he was listed on the injury report, Clint Capella has an illness that they didn't talk about yesterday. So that was interesting. So keep an eye on that. We'll see if something pops up. McMillan said after the game he thought it was going to be game time, and he played pretty well. It's a pretty underwhelming box score, but I thought he did a good job defensively. So Herter's also been playing through some stuff. He hasn't really been playing. He had like a little mid body injury like last week that kept his minutes down, went to the locker room. So keep an eye on that. The Hawks are withholding stuff. Trae Young's had wraps on his knees for the last 3 or 4 games. Missed a game, so that's something to watch. I thought he may get listed. So yeah, it's kind of to be determined here. I think the Hawks could just punt this game, but we know Gallo's out, and we know DeLon Wright's going to play a lot, and DeAndre should play a lot too.
Luka Doncic out for Dallas tonight. We've seen this once since they've had Spencer Dinwiddie, and both Dinwiddie and Jalen Brunson had huge games. They have a very favorable matchup tonight against Houston. What are your expectations for how Dallas attempts to replace Luka tonight?
Yeah, definitely going to be a heavy dose of Jalen Brunson and Spencer Dinwiddie in the nut matchup. We attacking guards. 2 of these guys really like to drive the basketball, so should see a lot of them. Almost certainly going to start Reggie Bullock joining Finney Smith, like Hal, who wrecked the Rockets in the last game, scored 26 points against them. So we're hoping that doesn't happen here as guys who are backing Jalen Brunson in a big way. It's Action Brunson season. But yeah, I mean, that's really the whole headline is a great matchup for really all these guys. And I mean, just looking at the roster, you're taking Luka out, you've got Brunson and Spencer. And I mean, so low usage festival, right?
Yeah.
Green doesn't shoot. Frank doesn't shoot.
Yeah.
Maxi Kleber shoots and doesn't make anything. He's like the biggest slump of his career. Bullock shoots 3s, doesn't dribble the ball. So it's going to be just massive opportunity. I actually dug it up a little bit deeper for that game that you had mentioned, the Sacramento Kings game that was a Saturday game that we had. I think we had we had double overs on that one for the 2 guys.
Yep.
And they both really came through. And it was like straight split ball handling. Like they were 50-50 for ball handling. 12 potential assists for Brunson compared to, I think, 9 for Spencer. So, yeah, it's going to be huge minutes there. So, really pumped for that, for these guys to get a big chance here.
Yeah. I mean, Dinwiddie dominated usage in that game. Obviously, you can see 13 free throw attempts, 22 field goal attempts in that one. But I think Brunson, can just as much earn that role. So both guys look to be in really good spots tonight. Other questionable tags to keep an eye on tonight. Indiana, Tyrese Haliburton is questionable. Brogdon's not on the injury report, but Haliburton is, along with Chris Duarte. Along with Chris Duarte and Isaiah Jackson. So we've seen Duarte and Isaiah Jackson kind of on and off the injury report of late. Matchup with the Kings is pretty favorable. The Kings will be without Fox and Sabonis, which we'll talk about in a second. What are your expectations for Haliburton's availability tonight and how that impacts things for Indy?
Kind of think he's sitting. It is back-to-back. That's the big piece here. It's a new injury for him. An injury he's had before, though. So curious to see how he responds to it. Decent chance he sits, which I think the Duarte Q tag is kind of based off him, kind of like I was saying with Miami, because it's been an injury he's been playing through. This is back-to-back, so they want to pick their spots on when they want to sit him. So definitely think one of them sit. Justin Anderson, man, 36 minutes. Carlisle had him when he was a rookie earlier in his career. He's known him, stayed in touch with him, as well. So definitely think there's pretty good minutes opportunity if they don't play. Isaiah Jackson had a concussion last week, missed a couple games, questionable, so kind of unclear on that one on when he could come back. Obviously, if it doesn't play, pretty good opportunity for Goga Batadze and Jalen Smith, and also O'Shea Brissett kind of as well. But not too much information. Obviously, the Halliburton revenge game will be super fun, but we'll see for the new injury.
Oklahoma City, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Olivier Sarr are both questionable. Here, Oklahoma City, I kept assuming that Shai was going to sit more games than he has. He keeps kind of playing through these questionable tags. What is your expectation of Shai's availability tonight?
Yeah, so I pulled up Tankathon, right? Because that's the important thing here. OKC and Orlando, they're playing each other. They're a half game apart for moving up. So, the top three is even more important than before. But even being in the top three, you'd rather be one, because if you miss, the worst case you could be is higher than number two. So, definitely think it's important for them to tank this game. So I would think he sits Shai, and that means a lot of Trey Mann, a lot of Aaron Wiggins, a lot of Poku, a lot of Baisley. Olivier Sarr's illness, don't really know what's up with that. Roby could play a pretty good bit against Mo Bamba. Talk about Orlando in a second. But yeah, I'd be pretty – and there's also quotes from Mark Dagnall. He almost hinted that they weren't going to play him. He said that SGA can't really respond from the ankles. They're going to list. He said they're going to list him questionable pretty much every game going forward. And it's going to be who they're playing against. I think if they're playing against good teams, they're losing games all the time. They've lost 10 straight. So I'd be pretty surprised if SGA plays today.
On the other side of that game in Orlando, Wendell Carter Jr. is questionable, and they've already ruled out Jalen Suggs and Markelle Fultz. So things look like they're going to be thinner for Orlando as well. Is your expectation that Wendell Carter Jr. sits too?
Yeah, for the same reasons on Shai, listed with 2 injuries, interestingly. So they're really saying we're not tanking, guys. He's got 2 injuries. By the end of the day, they're going to list him with everything. But I think he sits. So it's definitely Chuma Okeke season. I expect Chuma to get a really big minutes allotment. OKC's defense has been horrendous since they've lost to Dort, 29th overall. I believe 30th in half court. So the Magic kind of sputtering on offense at times, except against the Warriors apparently. But I think Chuma gets a pretty good role. A little bit worried about Bamba's ceiling in a back-to-back. And then no Markelle Fultz as well. So it could be a lot of RJ Hampton minutes here. As we'll see what's up with Gary Harris. They did sign Jeff Downton again, who was with them earlier. He's on a 10-day. I wouldn't be surprised if he plays today. But I'm expecting pretty much every Q tag in this game to not play.
The other thing I'd note there is Cole Anthony's ceiling is a lot stronger without Markelle Fultz around. This is something I've continued to note. But basically, we had lost kind of the upper 30s games on Cole Anthony. With a question mark on what their intentions are in terms of trying to win this game, that's questionable if the ceiling is there. But I just think removing Fultz in general opens up a little bit more usage. Probably get Terrence Ross back into the rotation without Fultz and Suggs. They do have the guard depth to kind of cover this up and not necessarily need to get into Downton. But we'll see how Orlando approaches things here. Brooklyn, a team that is trying to win games. Seth Curry is questionable and Goran Dragic is doubtful. They are on the road, so they get Kyrie Irving available for this game in Memphis. Been a decent bit of line movement on this game as it went from Brooklyn minus 2.5 to Brooklyn minus 1.5, back to 2, I think now. So what are your thoughts on Seth Curry, who left last game early against Brooklyn and has been playing through nagging injuries?
Well, interestingly, I thought it was pure nagging, but Steve Nash, you could believe him if you want to or not, but he said it was like a different kind of ankle issue. And I get that. There's different ways to tweak your ankle. So that comment, like if I didn't hear that comment, I was like, no chance he's playing. So I think he's got a chance to play. Obviously, this is a really big game for them. I think it's a national TV spot. Yeah, it is. So I think he's got a pretty good shot to play. Going to be game time, I think, which could be tough because we saw him get ruled out after tip. Sunday game against the Knicks. So keep an eye on that. Obviously, he doesn't play. A little bit more Patty Mills, but again, Kyrie coming back just takes so much ceiling off really every guard. Kyrie's going to play a ton. Birthday narrative as well. KD's going to be really busy. We'll talk about the Memphis side in a second. Bruce Brown would have a little bit more minute ceiling. He's going to be really, really busy today. He's been playing excellent basketball. So wouldn't really go there on the Patty Mills stuff if Curry does sit.
Karl-Anthony Towns questionable for Minnesota once again. Been able to play through this tag of late. Minnesota slipped back into the 7th seed and now has a tough game against Phoenix. Who's Phoenix on the front end of a back-to-back here, going up against Denver tomorrow. So Phoenix kind of getting their roll through the 6-7 seeds here. What are your expectations on Cat tonight and his availability against Phoenix?
Yeah, he's had this Q tag for a week. He was wrapped up bigger in his post-game presser. He had a little bit more wrap on his arm. And you see it like early in the game, you could just see him kind of shaking his arm a little bit. It's definitely bothering him, but I mean, it hasn't really affected his minutes usage overall. He had some foul, it's been fouls that have been cutting him down, not the arm thing. So huge game. Definitely expect him to go. He has wrecked DeAndre Ayton. He scored about a point a minute in about 100-minute sample against him over the last couple seasons. So I expect a huge outfit for Cat in the spot. And I talked about, and I'm not going to go into it, but I talked about a lot on 3-ball. How I expect some defensive coverages to change. Bottom line is, I don't feel very good about Jared Vanderbilt in this spot.
Yeah. Check out 3-ball. It's free on Established Run's NBA podcast feed. Mike does a great job each and every day getting you ready for NBA action. With a quick podcast that kind of sums up what happened last night, what to look forward to today. So make sure to check that out on Established Run's NBA podcast feed. Okay. LeBron, questionable again. He keeps playing through it, keeps crushing. So I assume there's no reason. The Lakers are actually showing a little bit of signs of life of late, enough that old Chris Lafakis is talking up betting them at like 100-1 to win the title or whatever. What are your thoughts on LeBron's availability against Philadelphia tonight?
I mean, Clap, just put the Clippers if you're going to do that, I feel like. Yeah, it should be good, right? We've seen this song and dance a million times, and only one time he, was a wallflower, wasn't dancing out there. So definitely think LeBron plays national TV game against. Like, come on, I mean, he's playing right. So not injury related. They go big, and they played pretty well. Wendell Gabriel, gave him pretty good minutes. Matchup related, almost certainly against the Cavs. We'll see if they lean into it. Obviously, you could certainly use the extra size. Definitely think Dwight Howard is going to start here. To eat some Embiid minutes, probably not a play. Just to, basically just to avoid everyone getting a foul. He's just like, hey, you got 6 fouls. That's like the most important thing about his game. So, So other than that, expect a little bit more Malik Monk, a little bit more Austin Reeves than we may have seen in the last matchup.
All right, other tags as we move from the questionables into some of the more doubtfuls and out situations. Julius Randle's doubtful again. Did not play last night. We saw what the Knicks looked like in his absence. Obi Toppin played a decent bit, but didn't take up all of the minutes that he had taken earlier. I think in part just due to like matchup and kind of the play, but it was interesting.
He had fouls too.
Yeah. They had McBride in there in the rotation. They got Taj in and Sims. So they were playing like a lot of guys last night, possibly due to the front end of a back-to-back that they're just kind of getting deeper into the rotation. Mm-hmm. The loss also, clinched a losing season for them. I think they're like on the outskirts here. I don't think that'll change Tom Thibodeau's approach at all, but it is worth noting here. Second night of a back-to-back, obviously RJ Barrett, 42 minutes last night, Burks 36, Mitch Robb 35. They got into it deep. Expect the same type of rotation tonight against Charlotte?
Yeah, I expect more Toppin for sure. Pace-up game, definitely going to need his agility, I think, in this matchup too, for the way they're going to be attacked. And yeah, I mean, if not for the fouls, I feel pretty confident he would have got to like 31, 32.
Okay.
Because he picked up his 5th. Taj Gibson subbed in with like 15 minutes left, and Taj just ran the rest of the minutes. Yeah. So I expect Toppin to play pretty high minutes here. Obviously, it's not the great spot. He'll probably see, decent amount of Miles Bridges, a little bit of PJ Washington. Larry Nance could make his Pels debut. Side note. But I expect a lot of Toppin, a lot of Barrett, a lot of Burks, decent amount of Fournier. We'll see what's up with Mitch's minutes, right? Mitch in a back-to-back, always got a little concerned. Tibbs just talked about that, but headline, I expect a lot of minutes for Toppin today.
Darren Fox is doubtful. Domantas Sabonis is ruled out, and the Kings beats are suggesting that we might not see either player for the rest of the season. Mm-hmm. Sacramento doesn't really have a lot to play for at this point in the season, so this is a situation we have just not seen like at all with Sacramento. Mm-hmm. We've seen no Fox at points. We obviously saw them before they had Sabonis, but this is going to be, I assume, Davion Mitchell, Justin Holiday, Harrison Barnes, Trey Lyles, Damian Jones is probably the starting lineup that we're getting here. You could see a lot of DiVincenzo. You could see Jeremy Lamb's minutes pucker up. So, what are your thoughts on the Kings in the absence of all these guys. Davion Mitchell, 46 minutes last game is hard to fathom that they're going to keep doing that. But I guess that's the approach, right? Like, might as well just play the young guys as much as possible.
Yeah, OT there boosted them a little bit, but yeah, man. Alpha rule. 9 minutes of touch time, 22 drives. This is Luka Trey SGA stuff. So, I mean, almost nuttiest of matchups. So I'm very, 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 very much in on Davion Mitchell today. No Sabonis too. So the usage is going to be outrageous. So yeah, they like Damian Jones. Damian Jones has really picked up minutes. Alvin Gentry throughout the year has talked about Damian Jones being a guy they're going to lean on, even when they had Holmes and Sabonis, and now they got neither of them. So expect a lot of Damian Jones. Ran a lot of screens with Davion to me. So definitely a D&D combo with the PNR action. So I expect a lot of minutes for Damian Jones. More use again, like Trey Lyles has really taken off. He left the door open that they could mix up the starting lineups, maybe going smaller. I've kind of been waiting for this to happen with like basically Dante DiVincenzo takes Trey Lyles' spot. Probably not the spot to do it here. Definitely expecting. So like again, Lyles, Davion, Dame Jones, the headlines, but there's still plenty available here.
Yeah, there's a lot of
there's a big pie that needs to be eaten against one of the worst defenses in the NBA. So this game is sneaky, really, really good.
Yeah. No John Morant again for Memphis. So Tyus Jones obviously gets a big boost. But we've seen them, be willing to play a little bit tighter of late instead of the straight like 10 mans and, keeping the starters into the low 30s and whatnot. But blowouts have kind of like hidden it a little bit. So what are your thoughts on the Grizz in the absence of John Morant tonight?
Yeah, crazy matchup, right? Because you got to guard KD. So what are your options there? You got Jaren Jackson, you got Dylan Brooks, and sneakily you got Brandon Clark. I think Brandon Clark is really the best guy that could defend Kevin Durant in this matchup, which makes me a little bit nervous. And I'm going like way off the charts on injuries here, but I want to talk about not in the DFS show later. But Steven Adams could get squeezed a little bit, I think, because they may want to put Brandon Clark on KD a little bit, and then you've got. Does Tyus get squeezed a little bit by D'Anthony Melton to guard Kyrie? So those guys aren't quite as rock solid as you may think. So possible if Tyus is chalk, possible fade spot.
Yeah.
But so those are two things I'm watching. Dylan Brooks wants to kind of pass more to Jaren Jackson Jr. There was quotes about that, and Desmond Bane should be really, really busy here. Big matchup. Obviously, massive foul rush for Dylan Brooks. A lot of foul rush for Jaren Jackson as well. So. Things could go really bad. I know you and I took Brooklyn here. Feel pretty good about not as good as I do about Miami, but interesting. We'll they've been great without Josh. And mentioned that too. So.
Surprised where the line movement has been on that it went against us, but we'll see how that ends up. Going to skirt past because we're running longer on these shows. Going to skirt past Josh Hart and Lonnie Walker. They're both out again. We've seen Portland play without Josh Hart. I think we're going to see Portland play without Josh Hart a lot more going forward. Yeah. So I don't think there's too much to cover there.
Just super sneaky thing. I think Chris Dunn gets a lot of minutes here just because of the DeJounte matchup. I think they play two guards a lot. I just think they have to. So that's like just one thing on that.
Okay. And then no Lonnie Walker. We've seen that for the Spurs. Any additional notes you wanted to leave there for the absence of Lonnie? It's a great matchup against Portland. So Spurs can certainly be on the radar tonight.
Yeah, worst defense in the NBA since the break with a bullet. They can't keep teams in half court. I think DeJounte is going to drop his first 40 ball tonight. And Keldon's been playing huge minutes. So those guys are in one of the best spots ever.
All right, some returns to action. Jeremy Grant and Corey Joseph are back in for Detroit. Takes a little steam off of Cade, but really not that much. I mean, Cade's rates have been great with Jeremy Grant or without. I think it's more, matchup driven here. The 76ers guys are back. James Harden, Joel Embiid. That, removes Tobias Harris and Tyrese Maxey from like auto play situations, but a really good matchup tonight with the Lakers. So you still might be getting into the 76ers team even when they're fully healthy.
Yeah, Embiid hasn't been affected, man. He's running like 33 points per 36 with Harden. Everything else has been great. He has been not impacted whatsoever. It's been the other guys for sure. So we know the Lakers are terrible paint defense. He could just go completely ham.
And then Marcus Smart and Robert Williams are back for Boston. We saw them a little bit thinner, the last time out. Home matchup against Utah tonight, so would expect those minutes to be elevated once again for the main Boston guys.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, good sign to see Time Lord back. That was not scheduled maintenance against OKC. We know he's had knee injuries pretty much since he's been in the NBA. So positive sign for sure to see him back after this one missed game.
All right. I think we've gone through it. There will still be a ton more injury information to keep an eye on, as is the case on these big 11-game slates. We will continue to update projections. We'll be live behind the paywall at Established Run NBA with our Established show at 5 o'clock Eastern tonight. Myself and Mike Gallagher, once again, breaking down all the DFS stuff.
Gary's
Gary. It's Gary tonight.
Yeah.
I thought it was
That's
you.
why I had to get my little matchup tangents in there for give you guys a little sneak preview of what's coming on later for you guys.
Nice. Well, there we go. It'll be me and Gary. My apologies to Gary on that front. But yeah, we'll be back tomorrow at 2 o'clock Eastern. If you're not subscribing to us behind the paywall, please consider subscribing to us in front of the paywall here on YouTube. Make sure to get notifications whenever we go live. We'll continue to provide this free content for you as long as you continue supporting it. 2 o'clock Eastern each and every day. We'll be back tomorrow to cover a much more modest 5-game slate tomorrow. Here at 2 o'clock Eastern on Established Run's NBA Injury Report Analysis Show. All right. Good luck, everybody. Enjoy the game tonight. Take care. We'll see you tomorrow.